What the hell is up? Eric Bledsoe is gone. Yes. This is the best day of my life. Just kidding. But for those of you who are tuning in right now, I'm assuming you know the news. Eric Bledsoe, Steven Adams, as well as the 10th pick and the 51st pick the 40th pick are headed to Memphis for Jonas Valanciunas, that number 17 and number 51 picks. I, like you, am screaming, hallelujah. The day has come. Hi ho. I am so excited. And there is so much more to come as well. First reactions are exactly like this. Exactly like that. I was not expecting to do a second live show today. I can tell you that. We'll just tack this on to the show with Christian Clark from earlier today, which if you missed it, a lot of the stuff still applies. We talked about trades, free agency, and who the Pels should go after. It's just about factoring in that they have the 17th pick now and not the 10th pick. And we'll talk about who they should take at 17 here. We'll talk about implications of this trade, whether they're going to hold on to Valanciunas, maybe ship him out. But either way, this is going to be a fun podcast. Obviously, you didn't want to get rid of that second first-round pick from next year from the Lakers too, but you do, and you get off two contracts that take up a lot of space in the cap. It opens up the possible trade exception along with just cap room in general. That is a really good question. We're going to address that in just 1 second because the Pels have a ton of room to possibly go off and get a new free agent, possibly Kyle Lowry. Possibly it opens up room to go get somebody else in a trade. And I've seen this too. I don't know the cap. I'm going to take your word for it. I don't know the cap situation at all. I saw stuff from Shamit Dua. For those of you who know him, he does great work for the Bourbon Street Shots, and I'm going to take a look at that here in a second. But I've also seen it opens up like $36 million if they move off from all their free agents and waive Wenyen, which if you're a fan of Pelicans Plus, I definitely don't want to see Wenyen go. That kills me. I hate that. And then here we go. This is a possibility too. Duncan Robinson. There are so many different ways that this can go. And as you can see by the wrinkles on my face, I am very happy. And this is going to be nuts. So I don't get super off track, let's take a look at my script here. Not script, but what we're going to be talking about here. It's not just the fact that the Pelicans got Jonas Valanciunas, because that's an upgrade over Steven Adams. They also have so much more flexibility in terms of free agency, in terms of trades, and like I haven't taken that comment off the screen, possibly going for maybe even Duncan Robinson to add to a team that has already improved in space by going out and getting Jonas Valanciunas. Now, let's measure Jonas Valanciunas versus Steven Adams. Before we start talking about 17, before we start talking about possible moves, let's look at what we've got like in terms of tangibles, because we're not positive that the Pels hold on to Jonas Valanciunas, but it's certainly a possibility. And he's a major, major upgrade over Steven Adams. Let's look at Steven Adams' stats from this last year. Played in 58 games, 27 minutes per game, shot 61% from the field, fine. Also 7.6 points per game, along with 8.9 rebounds per game. Did not shoot threes. We know that. That's not who he is. And so then let's look at Jonas Valanciunas. That dude, 17.1 points per game, 12.5 rebounds, and also he shot roughly 1 3-pointer a game and shot 36.8%. Last season shot 35%. And from 2017, 2018 on, he's shot, I believe, at least 48 three-pointers per season. So this is an upgrade in just about every way at the center position. He gets boards at a better rate than Steven Adams. He's more flexible. He's quicker with his hips because we know that Steven Adams, sorry, I just saw a comment. I'll reference it in a second here. Steven Adams is not the most fluid athlete in the world. And it's not like Jonas Valanciunas is either, but he's bigger. He can be more physical. He'll still set those great screens like Steven Adams did this last season, but he can make shots. He can make shots. And who knows if he's going to stick around? I'll say it again. We don't know if he will for sure be a Pelican this coming year, but he's just better than Steven Adams in just about every way. I'm going to look up his contract right now to see how much he's paid, because we know Steven Adams is set to make $17 million this and next year. And Jonas Valanciunas set to make 14 this coming year. And after that, he will be an unrestricted free agent. And then more fluidity with the cap, more options to move around into free agency and trades and such. So much that can happen with that. And let's see here. Adams was due $27 million this last season. He's actually due $17 this season. So bit of difference there. We'll see what happens. Also, let's look at the fact that, well, the Pelicans, they ditched. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place right now. Eric Bledsoe, gone. He's out of here. He's no longer a Pelican. That opens up so much in terms of the backcourt. We don't know if Lonzo Ball is coming back. We don't know if the Kyle Lowry rumors really have validity to them or not. We're not positive. But the point guards, or the guards on the books for this coming year, are for sure Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They're Kira Lewis. That's guaranteed. And those are two fast shot-making guards. Kira Lewis a little bit less so. He struggled with that jump shot from time to time this last year. But the mechanics are there. And with Jackson Hayes, Kira Lewis, Zion, all on the floor, that lineup is going to freaking fly up and down the floor. And then you add possibly Brandon Ingram to that, or a guy off the bench who has wheels and has that off the bench sort of energy, like a Josh Hart if he's brought back, or somebody else of that sort of caliber, maybe even Najee. Things get wild really fast on the offensive side of things. The pace switches up. Willie Green, we know he's a pace guy, and the space is there for Valanciunas, assuming he starts. It at least opens up things significantly more than what Steven Adams did. And bang, yeah, I agree with you. I believe I can fly, and that's how everybody else is feeling right now in New Orleans. Eric Bledsoe gone. He does so much. He doesn't do anything. Like he's just an all-around negative guy. And you send him to a division rival. Ja Morant, everything gets clogged now. And Ja was not a great three-point shooter this year. He's not really known for that. Sure, is he working on it? I'm positive he is. That's just the league nowadays. But Ja Morant is not known for his three-point shooting capability. Shot 33% as a rookie and 30% this year as those attempts went up. So that tightens things up for a guard that likes to attack the basket. That is not good. This is a negative move for the Grizzlies in my mind's eye. It depends on who they take at 10. Do they really love Moody? Do they think Kuminga falls? Do they think they can get off the Bledsoe and Steven Adams contract by sending off future picks, or maybe the Grayson Allen types, maybe the DeAnthony Melton? I don't know, but it looks like a negative move for Memphis to me. I mean, this is a great point. Is it too early to praise Giff? Would have thought he would have to drop them. Thought he would drop both of them in one deal. I would not have thought that personally. And maybe you got a typo there. That guy _Jaywalk. I know you tune in pretty regularly, so thank you for doing that, and thank you for giving your opinions. Waiting for everybody else to do that too. Really appreciate it. But I'm praising Griff here. I like what he did. Obviously, last year that move was not great, but you acquired a bunch of picks, and this is a good move for right now, especially with the Pelicans. This is a great move. You're sending two of your worst contracts and probably two of your worst players to another team. You're getting younger with Jonas Valanciunas. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's fairly young. We'll look at his age here in a moment. He is 29. I guess he's the same age as Steven Adams, but who cares? He's better. That's what matters, right? So to continue here on this massive, massive trade for the New Orleans Pelicans, what you're talking about is probably opening up cap to the tune of close to $30 million. Also depends on the trade exception, what goes there, because Steven Adams and Bled were making a lot more money than Jonas Valanciunas. Like, pair their two salaries together, that's like roughly $34 million. And Jonas Valanciunas was making 14. So significant difference in money. You get off a ton of money. You get off the Bledsoe contract, the Steven Adams contract. Unfortunately, you have to give up 10, which that could have been a really good spot for the Pelicans. They're probably out on Moses Moody. They're probably out on Jonathan Kuminga had he fallen. But at 17, the options are still great. And you don't have guys clogging up the lane. So you get Valanciunas, who's willing to shoot threes. You get Trey Murphy, who's a prototypical 3-and-D guy. He's 6'9" and can shoot the three ball. Maybe you get Trey Mann, who's one of the better shooters in the draft. And maybe Corey Kispert falls to 17. I've seen him falling into the 20s in some mock drafts. This is basically the best possible thing that could happen for the Pelicans. Not only do they get off both of these contracts, but they send them to division rivals. They send them to a division rival. And they hold on to, they still have 4 second-round picks, so they can package those up, possibly move into the the latter half of the first round. There's quite a bit of good players there at that spot too. Jared Butler, Io DeSunmu, who I think who the Pels can get at 35, JT Thor, BJ Boston, who would be a long shot, but there are so many options. So many options for this Pelicans team. If they want to bring back Lonzo, if they believe in Lonzo long-term, there you go. Brandon Savoy, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. He's watching on Facebook. Enough for Ball and or Lowry. Even I'm impressed. It's been tough to impress Pelicans fans as we've gone along here. And the sign-and trade options are still open. You can get Lowry from the Bulls in a sign-and trade. I'm a little bit iffy on Lowry, but there's this. Adam Baird, thank you for watching, sir. You got the Chris Paul, Avi, and everything. I want to go after Chris Paul to bring to New Orleans to see what he did for the Suns. Maybe he can do it in New Orleans and come back and reignite what he once had here in New Orleans. I'm going to lean probably more Kyle Lowry there, but now you don't have to necessarily do a sign-in trade. Like the signing for a free agent for Lowry is much more likely, and you can get it on a short-term deal. Maybe you pay him a bunch of money this season and wait until next season's free agency and really go out and spend it for the long term. And maybe he stays healthy. Maybe you bring him back on just like 1+1, maybe player option, maybe team option deals, preferably team option, but he's not going to sign any team option stuff at this stage in his career. So much going on here. So much going on. I really would love to break it down more for you. There's just so many different options. The Pelicans can remain versatile right now, and things can get really crazy on top of the way they're already crazy right now. We had Christian Clark on the show earlier today prior to the trade, unfortunately, but we'll tag this bit of this live show on to that previous show today for the podcast tomorrow. Craziness. And if I think of anything, I'm sure you can check it out on Twitter on my behalf on at Elliot Clough there on Twitter. I'm looking at some options for the Pelicans here. Keith Smith, NBA, said he's got the Pelicans able to create $36.6 million in cap space after this trade. That's after renouncing all the free agents and waiving Wenyen Gabriel. For God's sake, anybody but Wenyen Gabriel. I had to put that in there. And if they keep cap holds for Josh Hart and Didi Lozada, somewhat likely the Pelicans can create $26.3 million in cap space. Big thing is that New Orleans now has options. And I'll read this tweet from Shamit as well. So the cap room this creates is $36.1 million if they renounce Ball, Hart, and the full mid-level exception, or they can create $21 million in the trade exception. There's a lot more to it. Capologist, I am not one of those. So if you're going to try to look into that, I would look into some more of those guys who covered the NBA for a long amount of time. For those of you who are watching, Vincent Barney Lewis, who was commenting a little bit earlier, says he'd prefer to sign and trade for Kyle Lowry for 3 years and sign him $20 million than giving him $30 million as a free agent. Is anybody else that's watching right now? You can comment, you can put it in the live chat wherever you're at. Let us know, who else do you want for the Pelicans to go after? Lowry is a big choice, a big option this coming season. And if he wants to pair with DeMar DeRozan, maybe DeMar DeRozan could come to New Orleans. That'd be crazy. Now we're just getting a little wild here. But again, that 17 pick, I'm going to look a little bit more here around who the Pelicans could select at that spot. Like I said, Corey Kispert, Trey Murphy, and then there's guys like Cameron Thomas at that 17 spot that the Pelicans could select. I don't see an Alperen Sengun. I don't see a Chris Duarte. I don't see a Keon Johnson around that spot. Jalen Johnson might be the selection if they really want to go upside, but tell me who you want at 17. Tell me who you want the Pelicans to go after in free agency, because things are going to get wild. And on top of that, we talked about it with Christian this morning. Zion and Brandon Ingram are probably the only pull that the Pelicans have in terms of going out and getting veterans that are free agents. But if you bring in Kyle Lowry is a guy a lot of folks like around the league. He's a leader. He's actually done that before. And like I've said about Lowry, it's tangible. He's been a leader before. Maybe you'd still go out and trade for Colin Sexton. I don't know. This is a good question here from Vincent Barney Lewis, who is real active with us right now. We appreciate it, man. Keep commenting. He wanted to know our thoughts on Tim Hardaway Jr. going after him in free agency. I think that'd be a situation where you'd probably have to overpay. Those are shooters. Shooters are going to get a bunch of money this offseason, no matter where they go. So I think with what they did with Valanciunas and that 17 pick, they won't have to spend money on a Tim Hardaway Jr. because hopefully they'll get Trey Murphy. Hopefully they'll get a Trey Mann, one of those guys. And then you can go out and add some veteran shooters in free agency. The list would probably not be super intriguing, but there are guys like Duncan Robinson that a lot of people love that you may be able to go after in free agency. Alan Childress brought that up a little bit ago. This comment from Dustin Paul, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Michelle, saying that let's freaking go. And I'm right there with you. But also there's guys like Alec Burks, Tony Snell, who I know a lot of people don't like, Reggie Bullock, who were shooters this previous season, and then, Torrey Craig, who's a wing that any team can use. So that's going to do it for me for today's episode. I will be on Crunch Time with David Grubb here in a moment, or I guess at 5 o'clock. So you can check that out on, I think it's, what's the 103 to 7, The Game in Lafayette. I'm sure I'm going to be on a few other podcasts and shows coming up here soon, and we'll have some guests to talk about the draft. On draft night, for those of you who are listening, I know a lot of the same people like to tune in. I will put out a tweet saying, for those of you who want to come on and join, you can. I'd love to have some fan input on draft night. We'll go live and talk a little bit before the draft, do maybe a recap, a pre-draft show, and get some live thoughts from the fans. And whether it's on Twitter, I'll share your opinions from there. Or if you want to join in on the broadcast, I'll be able to send out a link. Obviously, I'm not going to make that public, but I will send out a link. If you DM me, you can hop on the show, and I would love to have you on. One more thing before we let you go. Adam Baird, once again, campaign. I would be shocked if he leaves Phoenix, if I'm going to be honest. And he was great with Phoenix in the playoffs. But if I want to go get a campaign, what I would do is take a flyer on him. I don't want to have him around long term because we haven't seen that consistency from him. He was good this season. I'm not going to lie. Like I like campaign, but I'm not going to go out and spend a bunch of money to get him. I think money can be spent elsewhere. So that's where I'm feeling for that. For those of you who are listening on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, go check out Twitter. On my Twitter, it's @ElliotClough. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. This will be on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter for the time being. If you want to check out a live reaction, and of course, I'll attach it to tomorrow's podcast. And enjoy. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, my apologies for the little bit of delay and the fact that the news broke after Christian came on. So it's a little different than what you would expect for it's not quite up to date, but a lot of the conversation is still incredibly relevant. Christian's an awesome guy. Check it out. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned for the draft on Thursday. I'll ask if anybody wants to come on, and I'll send you the link via DM, all of that. So, folks, we're just getting started. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in. This was Pelicans Plus.